Real True Education, not fake news. Number 40C on electricity bills and the huge rise in electricity bills and what's taking place. I hope I'm not boring you to death, but at the same time, this is such a ludicrous situation. I just can't let it go. Now, there was a woman on Joe Duffy. You know Joe Duffy on RTE. It's an Irish presenter, agony aunt type of programme, and she was from Cork, and her people had a tailor company making suits and things, and she took it over and was running very well, and she had a deal with, I think it was ESB Electric Ireland, not sure about that, that she'd use a certain amount and she got a little discount on that. But because of something which, you know, I cannot name, you know what it is, something that's happened, she had to close up. And she wasn't using the amount of electricity. By the way, I'm not allowed to use certain terms. I'll be shut down off YouTube if I do. Censorship, but that's it. We just have to work around that. But she found that the amount that she paid them for electricity she didn't use. She was closed. So they said you'll use 1,000, we say units, and she agreed to use that, and she made the deal, and all of a sudden this thing comes in, and she's only using 100 to keep the lights on. They insisted she paid them the 1,000. In other words, charging them for electricity never used. Now just consider this renewable energy was meant to bring down the cost of electricity, and it has resulted in us paying wind farms not to produce electricity, and it has also resulted in customers having to pay for electricity they don't use. What a crazy situation. Now I've dealt with that. I think you'll understand that. Now I want to go to another one of a large pub I know. It's in Dublin, and they're not reading the meter because of that thing as well. You know what it is. I can't say it. And so what the manager did was he took the meter readings and sent it on to Energia, which was the supplier in this case. We've got 4 or 5 suppliers in Ireland. And he sent on the details, and that's what a lot of people do. You send on the thing, and then they'll read it eventually, your meter reading, and usually it's the same. Why would you bother fooling them? If there's any difference, they adjust it. But they didn't send them out, and they made a notional usage, which was very high, and he countered. He says, no, that's the amount I used, I'm watching it. And they would not listen, and they're now telling him they're cutting him off. They're going to cut off this whole big pub. And of course it's closed at the minute, you know, so they're going to close it off. So this is what you see. Now the next thing is, I know a lady in Limerick who has a flat. She has a little house that's rented, and she was wanted connected. Must have got a renovation, and she got on to the company to do it up, to connect it, and they demanded €300 for connection fee, and it used to be free. And she argued with them, and eventually she says, I have a couple of other houses, and I'm leaving you altogether, leaving the company. And then they got back and they consulted the manager and said, all right, we'll connect you up free, you know, which they always did. So clearly there's an instruction out to the unfortunate workers of Ireland's electricity suppliers to rip off the public. Try it every time. So now, one of the things they demand now is direct debit, and I have a deal with my internet supplier that if I don't pay, they can take it by direct debit. They want direct debit, and a lot of people, I know professional people and many other people, are living hand to mouth, and they haven't the intelligence or brains to actually watch what's going on with their account. They get direct debit, they'll keep taking it. And obviously there's about 100 people. You take a sample of 100 people, there's probably 30 of them or 40 that will not know. You can take the money out of their account. Once they don't see the money being paid across the counter, you can take it off them by other means, and they haven't the wherewithal to comprehend what's happening. And they're so busy and so tired with the horrible, corrupt system of government we have in this country that they just don't have the mojo to get up and do something about it. And these people know that. Now this is so. What's happening all over the place? That electricity companies are going broke, and they desperately need money. And they were I made videos a year ago about this. So I mean, there's no doubt it doesn't add up. We need 6,500 megawatts of electricity. We have 12,000, and they're hoping to build 15, and that extra 12. That's for between 6 and 12. Some of it is fast-acting plant on existing sites, but a lot of it is wind farms. And you see, each wind farm must break even. It must break even. So if you have a wind company down in County Clare, it has to get a certain income. Otherwise, it will go wallop. It can't go on. It is only a very narrow margin. And so all this hype has been built and all this falsehood is being built into it. So what I'm saying is, what we're seeing now is the electricity companies faced with having to tell the government they're going to go broke if they don't double our electricity prices, which is what has to happen eventually. They have to double them, and that's going to mean people poor and hungry and not having food and everything else, and that's not politically very acceptable. And what they're doing is they're trying to rip off individuals. Hopefully they'll get a soft touch somewhere. Give me 300, that's better. And clearly the staff are being told anywhere you can get a lump of money, pull it, get it in. And also the government is trying to persuade people to invest in wind turbines, in community wind farm schemes, and I said they can't make money. I produced the accounts and all of that. And I spoke to a person who disagrees with me on this, who has investments, and he says he has investments in Green Coat Renewables and he's getting dividends. But it was in the paper that dividends are only paid from muggles of new investors, idiots, coming along investing more. It's a Ponzi scheme. He's not getting it from direct or income, and he doesn't seem to have the wherewithal to check a set of accounts. Oh, I don't believe accounts anyway. Well, I'm sorry, but that's how the accounts have to have a certain standard. If the accounts of the world go so out of line with reality, well, then we have another problem. But I just want to make that point. Green Coat is still buying wind farms. It bought the John Lang wind farm in Tipperary, and John Lang said he could never make money there. So there's something fishy going on. Now, another friend of mine, Eddie O'Connor, the bold Eddie, he's my old friend and adversary. We're enemies and friends in a kind of a way, because in many ways we're two sides of the one coin. But he got in on this and he thought he was going to make a fortune and made a lot of money currently. But what does he own? Sure, what's the wind farm worth? You couldn't give them away unless you get someone like Green Coat to buy them. So he was at a conference to do with Africa and to do with energy. He expanded big time into Africa, and the papers were full of the glorious work he did in Africa. He was putting up wind farms, and what's he doing? So he's going to leave them free from fossil fuel. He was a wonderful man altogether. But about that same time, I was fighting him. I was countering him on the radio or something, and he wrote in the paper about what he thought of people. He didn't mention me specifically. He says, Spartan cows, he says. Excuse your presence. But I know well, I clearly say I'm a farmer, and I have cows, and he was talking about the emissions from the cows. So I knew well he was getting at me. So he was being sarcastic. He says, that fellow with the farting cows, who the hell is he? You see? But anyway, he said that he found that in Africa they don't understand democracy. He was maintaining that you can stereotype Africans and say they all don't understand how to do business. They're all corrupt essentially. They don't understand democracy, this, that and the other, and blah, blah, blah. Okay? Right. Fair enough. I'm not making any comment on that. I think it is a slightly racist remark. I'm not so sure that's the case. Don't forget, white Europeans took these people as slaves. Took them as slaves. For years, and took all the land and took everything. Maybe if they were left alone they might be a lot better. I'm not too sure that he's right in that, but anyway, he made this point that they don't understand democracy. And people there objected. You're stereotyping these people, and they kicked up. And what did Eddie do? He resigned from Mainstream Renewable Power. Now, Mainstream Renewable Power owned the local Rara wind farm here. They built it. And now he's gone, and they've sold it on. So I'm just telling you. Now, he says they don't understand democracy, but I make the point. The SEA directive is a very democratic document that requires wind farms to be assessed. And Eddie never wanted them assessed. So I would accuse him of not understanding democracy, because the requirement to assess wind farms and wind turbines from the SEA perspective is a legal one, and he didn't obey it, and he made little of it, and he was sarcastic to those who demanded that we properly assess it. Okay, so that's the thing, folks. The crows are coming home to roost. The companies pay the wind farm companies. So if you're with say, Electric Ireland, they collect your money in your bill, and they charge you the PSO levy, and then they pay wind farm company on an ex post and an ex ante basis. They give them a lump sum, a notional lump sum, and they adjust it up or down depending on the wind performance. And in many cases, they're discovering that they can't give them much because there's nearly no wind to generate electricity, and these wind turbines are using electricity, and there's all this stuff going on. So they can't pay. There's a big. If you had 1,500 megawatts of power in 3 or 4 big buildings, the one staff might run all up to a point. But when you have it all scattered out, the one staff will not run all. Each facility has its own financial arrangements, and it has to get money. And the only one it can get it off is SSE Electricity, ESB Electric Ireland, Bord Gáis, Energia, and these companies. They have to send them out the check. If they don't get the check, they'll go wallop. But in the case of Rara wind farm here, in that case, it was owned by Eddie O'Connor's company, Mainstream Renewable Power. Pity he didn't go earlier. We mightn't have had it built. But they're owned by Williamstown, and that's a branch of BlackRock. And in their 2009 company accounts, they say that they are a going concern because they have unlimited resources from an American investment company. So what's happening with our electricity and our renewable energy in Ireland is that there are 2 companies. One is BlackRock Investments, known as Williamstown, a branch, with Williamstown as a branch, pouring unlimited resources in. Is it that they want to be seen to be green, or what? They're pouring unbelievable profits into wind farms to keep them going, and we have Green Coat Renewable Energy doing the exact same. Is that sustainable in the long term? Can they keep going these losses? Well, my opinion is if Green Coat and BlackRock were big enough to do this, the bills wouldn't be going up in the country. In other words, the ESB, Energia, and all these crowd, just checking my time, the ESB, Energia, Bord Gáis, and SSE, they would be able to draw, the wind farms would draw down the money from BlackRock and from Green Coat Renewables, and they'd keep it going forever. Why are the electric companies demanding more and more money and resorting to virtual snaky and bullying tactics to pull money anywhere they can? And I have one account with Bord Gáis. It's good enough, they're not so bad. They got rid of a lot of windmills, but I have another one with ESB Electric Ireland, and I'm getting out of there. I'm not having any more to do with them. They're at this crack big time. So is SSE, and so is Energia. So they're about the best of them, but none of them, they're all paying this. So they're all finding the pressure. Where are we going to get the money to pay the wind farms? On the other hand, the wind farm account says, well, there's a crowd in America, a crowd here in Ireland, they'll give us any amount of money. And the fact that the government is asking people to invest, maybe their gratuity or some wee lump sum or something they got for a bit of land in wind turbines, which I say can never pay back, is telling. So how long will these companies, why are these companies doing this? Is it just to look green? What is the reason? How much can the government sustain them? Why are the price of electricity has gone up in the north 6.5% last month? But obviously, if these companies in the Republic got their way, they'd put up their prices a way up anyway, and they're trying to get a lump here and a lump there, any wee change, any wee deal, and they want your direct debit, so if you stop paying, they can pull it out, and you have to get back on to get it back again. That is unbelievable stuff in the Republic of Ireland, that this hookery is going on. But eventually, what is going to happen? How can this continue? And the events that have happened in the world haven't helped them that much, but still, no matter what it is, wind farms do not produce enough electricity to pay their way, and somebody has to bail them out. And we're waiting and watching, and that's the story. But it's big news to know that Eddie O'Connor is gone. He's gone, and me and me farting cows are still here. So we have to have a laugh. Folks, will you give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whichever you think. I think now we're coming to the kernel of this. I think the money is the problem, and I think our dossier and the insolvency of our Irish wind farms, which show they were losing 220 million a year way back a few years ago, and they can't have been doing any better since. I think when you see all that, we're watching with bated breath. But with serious, if the electricity goes down or goes out, or poor people, you could have a lot of deaths. You could have a lot of hardship, because even for oil-fired central heating, you need electricity. Folks, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and we'll see you back for something else. And sure, if you